Imagine you're trapped aboard a wooden ship somewhere in the Mediterranean over 2,000 years ago. The sun beats down relentlessly. Your drinking water has gone foul. Flies swarm over rotting food, and every wave sends splinters into your bare feet. A deep cut from your last raid has become infected, and the pain is growing worse by the hour. There are no doctors, no hospitals, no pharmacies. Instead, someone hands you a small pouch filled with crushed plants and tells you to chew them. Another sailor pours a thick, bitter liquid into a cup and insists it will help you sleep through the pain. Would you drink it?
Believe it or not, this wasn't unusual in the ancient world. Long before modern medicine existed, pirates and sailors relied on powerful natural substances to survive life at sea. Some eased pain, others calmed fear. A few could even send someone into a dreamlike state, or kill them if used incorrectly. But did ancient pirates really use drugs? Or is that just another myth created by movies and television? The answer is far more fascinating than most people realize. To understand why pirates turned to these substances, we first have to understand just how miserable life aboard an ancient ship really was. When people think of pirates, they usually picture fearless warriors searching for treasure while waving swords and drinking endless cups of rum. But that image belongs mostly to the Caribbean pirates of the 1600s and 1700s. Ancient pirates lived in a completely different world. For centuries, pirate crews sailed the Mediterranean, attacking merchant ships and coastal towns. Some operated from hidden coves along rugged coastlines, while others worked with powerful kingdoms that secretly encouraged piracy against their enemies. Among the most feared were the Cilician pirates, whose influence became so great that they disrupted trade across the Mediterranean and even challenged the growing power of Rome. Life aboard their ships was anything but glamorous. Wooden vessels were cramped and filthy. Crews often slept shoulder to shoulder with little protection from the weather. Fresh food disappeared quickly, forcing sailors to survive on dried fish, salted meat, hard bread, olives, and whatever they could steal during raids. Clean water rarely stayed fresh for long. Stored in wooden barrels, it often became cloudy, foul-smelling, and contaminated after weeks at sea. Disease spread easily through these cramped conditions. Simple infections could become deadly within days. Cuts from rope burns, splinters, or sword fights had no antibiotics to stop bacteria from spreading. Fever, dysentery, parasites, and stomach illnesses claimed countless lives long before any battle could. In many cases, pirates feared sickness more than enemy ships. Every voyage carried the constant risk that someone would become too weak to row, fight, or even stand. Without modern medicine, survival depended on whatever remedies nature could provide. Fortunately for ancient sailors, civilizations had been experimenting with medicinal plants for thousands of years. The Egyptians recorded treatments using herbs as early as 1500 BC. Greek physicians studied the healing properties of dozens of plants, while later Roman doctors expanded medical knowledge across much of Europe and the Mediterranean. Pirates may not have been scholars, but they constantly visited ports where traders, healers, and travelers exchanged ideas. Knowledge spread quickly across the sea. If someone discovered a plant that eased pain or helped wounds heal, sailors wanted to know about it. One of the oldest and most powerful substances available was opium. Extracted from the seed pods of the opium poppy, this thick white sap had been used for thousands of years before the rise of Mediterranean piracy. Ancient civilizations recognized that it could dramatically reduce pain and help people sleep. For someone recovering from a sword wound or broken bone, that relief could feel miraculous. But opium came with serious risks. Taking too much could slow breathing and become fatal. Regular use could also lead to dependence, although ancient people didn't fully understand why. Even so, its ability to numb unbearable pain made it one of the most valuable medicinal substances in the ancient world. While historians can't prove that every pirate ship carried opium, they know it was traded throughout the Mediterranean. Wealthier captains or pirates with connections to major ports likely had access to it, especially after successful raids. Not every remedy was so powerful. Wine served an important purpose far beyond celebration. Ancient wine was often mixed with water before drinking. The alcohol helped reduce some harmful bacteria while making stale water more tolerable. Some mixtures included herbs believed to reduce pain, improve digestion, or calm nerves before dangerous voyages. To modern eyes, these drinks might resemble primitive medicines more than recreational alcohol. Of course, ancient healers didn't understand bacteria or viruses. They judged treatments by observation. If someone survived after drinking a certain mixture, people assumed it worked. Sometimes they were right. Sometimes they were terribly wrong. And some of the strangest remedies were still waiting to be discovered. The ancient world was filled with plants that seemed almost magical. Some could dull pain. Others could put a person to sleep within minutes. A few were so powerful that people believed they had supernatural abilities. To desperate pirates, these plants weren't magic. They were survival. One of the most mysterious was a plant known as mandrake. Its twisted root often resembled a human body, leading many ancient cultures to believe it possessed mystical powers. Legends claimed that pulling a mandrake from the ground would cause it to scream, a sound so terrifying it could kill anyone who heard it. Of course, that wasn't true, but the plant itself was dangerous enough. Mandrake contains natural chemicals that can cause drowsiness, confusion, blurred vision, and even unconsciousness. Ancient physicians sometimes used it before painful procedures because it acted as a crude anesthetic. For pirates suffering from broken bones or deep wounds, anything that reduced pain would have been worth almost any risk. Another infamous plant was henbane. Unlike mandrake, henbane was even more unpredictable. Small amounts could reduce pain or help someone sleep. Larger doses often caused hallucinations, memory loss, violent confusion, and complete disorientation. Ancient writers describe people seeing things that weren't there or speaking nonsense for hours. Imagine trying to steer a pirate ship through rough seas while experiencing terrifying hallucinations. It would have been a disaster. Because of that, these plants were far more valuable as medicine than recreation. The goal wasn't to escape reality, it was to survive it. Then there's one of history's biggest pirate myths, cannabis. Today, many people assume pirates regularly smoked marijuana during long voyages, but historical evidence tells a very different story. Cannabis certainly existed in the ancient world. The plant had been cultivated across Asia for thousands of years before spreading westward. Ancient cultures used hemp fibers to make rope, sails, fishing nets, clothing, and even paper-like materials. In fact, hemp became one of the most important materials for ships. Without strong hemp rope, ancient vessels simply couldn't function. Every sail, anchor line, and rigging system depended on it. But using hemp for rope is very different from using cannabis as a drug. Despite what modern movies sometimes suggest, historians have found little evidence that ancient Mediterranean pirates regularly smoked cannabis for recreation. If they encountered the plant, they were much more likely to value its fibers than its psychoactive effects. That doesn't mean mind-altering substances were unknown. Far from it. The ancient Mediterranean was a crossroads of civilizations. Merchants traveled between Egypt, Greece, Persia, North Africa, and parts of Asia, carrying not only goods but also medical knowledge. Every port offered new remedies. Every culture had its own traditions. Pirates, who constantly raided ships and visited foreign harbors, were exposed to all of it. Some likely learned which herbs reduced fever. Others discovered plants that soothed stomach illnesses after eating spoiled food. Knowledge spread faster than many people realize. A successful remedy quickly became valuable information. But perhaps the greatest medicine wasn't a plant at all. It was alcohol. Contrary to popular belief, ancient pirates weren't constantly drunk. That image mostly comes from the golden age of piracy nearly 2,000 years later. In reality, staying intoxicated aboard an ancient ship could be fatal. Pirates depended on speed, balance, and quick decisions. During a surprise attack, every crew member had a job. Some rowed, some steered. Others climbed rigging or prepared weapons. One drunken mistake could cost an entire crew their lives. Instead, wine was often consumed in moderation and frequently diluted with water. It provided calories, lasted longer than fresh water, and was sometimes believed to prevent illness. Whether it actually protected against disease is another question entirely. The biggest killer aboard pirate ships wasn't battle, it was infection. Without understanding germs, ancient people had no idea why wounds became swollen, red, and filled with pus. To them, illness often seemed random. A pirate could survive an arrow through his shoulder, but die days later from a tiny infected cut on his hand. That uncertainty made every injury terrifying. Some healers applied honey directly to wounds. Others used crushed herbs or tree resins. Surprisingly, modern science has shown that honey naturally fights certain bacteria, meaning some ancient treatments worked far better than their users ever understood. Not every remedy was so effective. Some involved poisonous plants. Others relied on superstition rather than medicine. Ancient sailors wore protective charms around their necks, believing they would keep disease away. Some prayed to sea gods before drinking herbal mixtures. Others believed certain plants only worked if harvested under a full moon. Medicine and religion often blended together. No one truly knew what worked, they simply hoped something would. Ironically, pirates weren't the only ones relying on these remedies. Roman soldiers, Greek sailors, merchants, fishermen, and even wealthy citizens used many of the same medicines. The difference was access. A rich Roman might consult an experienced physician. A pirate usually relied on whatever could be stolen, traded, or gathered along the coast. Sometimes that knowledge saved lives. Sometimes it made things much worse. Because in the ancient world, the line between medicine and poison was incredibly thin. That thin line between medicine and poison may have been the greatest gamble ancient pirates ever faced. Today, if you have a headache, you can take a painkiller with a measured dose that's been tested countless times. If you have an infection, antibiotics can often clear it up in days. Ancient pirates had no such luxury. Every remedy was an experiment. One healer might swear by a certain herb, while another insisted it was deadly. A pirate captain might carry a pouch of dried plants, believing they could save a crewman's life, only to discover they made the illness worse. There was no medical school to settle the debate, only experience and survival. In some cases, pirates likely learned by watching others. Merchant sailors, fishermen, and local healers all shared pieces of medical knowledge. A remedy that worked in one port might spread across the Mediterranean within a few years, as sailors exchanged stories in crowded harbors. The sea wasn't just a highway for trade, it was a highway for ideas. That included medicine. Ancient physicians, such as those following the teachings of Hippocrates, believed that illness came from imbalances within the body rather than invisible germs. Treatments often focused on restoring balance through diet, herbs, exercise, or bloodletting. Pirates weren't trained doctors, but they lived in a world shaped by these beliefs. If a respected healer recommended a particular plant, many sailors would trust it without question. Sometimes that trust paid off. Other times, it proved fatal. One of the greatest dangers was dosage. Plants don't come with instructions. The same herb that eased pain in small amounts could stop someone's heart if too much was taken. Without scales or modern measurements, ancient healers relied on experience, memory, and guesswork. For an injured pirate lying on the deck of a ship, that guess could determine whether he lived to see another sunrise. This is one reason historians are careful when discussing drug use among ancient pirates. The word drug often makes us think of recreational substances used purely for pleasure. But for ancient sailors, most of these substances served a practical purpose. They wanted to stop pain, lower fevers, treat infections, calm anxiety before battle, or simply get enough sleep to survive another exhausting day at sea. Life itself was hard enough. There was little reason to seek intoxication when danger surrounded them every hour. Storms could appear without warning. Enemy ships could emerge over the horizon at any moment. A loose rope or shifting sail could throw someone overboard in seconds. Alertness wasn't optional. It was survival. That doesn't mean every pirate behaved responsibly. Some undoubtedly drank too much wine after successful raids. Others may have experimented with unfamiliar herbs encountered during their travels. Pirates were human after all. But the popular image of ancient pirate crews constantly getting high simply isn't supported by historical evidence. The reality is both less dramatic and far more interesting. Ancient pirates were resourceful. They borrowed knowledge from every civilization they encountered: Greek medicine, Egyptian herbal remedies, Roman medical practices, local healers living along distant coastlines. Every encounter added another piece to their understanding of survival. Even when they didn't fully understand why a treatment worked, they remembered the results. If a certain plant reduced pain, they used it again. If another caused terrible sickness, they avoided it. Generation after generation, practical experience became their greatest teacher. Ironically, some of those ancient remedies have stood the test of time. Modern researchers have confirmed that honey can help fight certain bacteria. The opium poppy eventually led to powerful modern pain medications. Many medicinal herbs studied today were first recorded by ancient civilizations thousands of years ago. Of course, modern medicine has also revealed just how dangerous many traditional remedies could be. Plants once praised as miracle cures are now known to contain toxic chemicals capable of causing organ failure, hallucinations, or death. Ancient pirates had no way of knowing. They simply did the best they could with the knowledge available. Perhaps that's the biggest lesson hidden within their story. When we hear the word pirate, it's easy to imagine fearless outlaws chasing treasure across the sea. But beneath that legendary image were ordinary people facing extraordinary hardships. They battled disease without antibiotics, pain without hospitals, injuries without surgeons. Every voyage tested not only their courage, but also their ability to adapt. The substances they carried weren't symbols of luxury, they were tools of survival. So, when did ancient pirates start using drugs? In many ways, they never started at all. From the earliest days of organized seafaring, sailors relied on whatever medicinal plants and natural substances their civilizations could provide. Pirates inherited that knowledge because they lived in the same harsh world. The real story isn't about recreational drug use. It's about humanity's endless search for relief from pain, fear, and disease. Thousands of years before pharmacies existed, ancient pirates searched coastlines, traded with healers, and trusted nature to keep them alive. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, but every remedy tells us something remarkable about life in the ancient world. A world where survival depended not only on strength with a sword, but on knowing which plants could save your life, and which ones could end it. If you enjoyed uncovering the hidden history behind ancient pirates, make sure to subscribe for more stories that separate historical fact from popular myth. History is often stranger than fiction, and there are countless forgotten secrets still waiting to be discovered.